Show is what I know. They bring in all these boys and girls all around the whole wide world. Imprisoned Show is what I know.
Would you say there is human trafficking in Anoka County, and why is there?
I think, as you mentioned earlier, it does exist everywhere, including Anoka County. And why is there human trafficking in Anoka County would be the same thing as it is for all over the world. And it is an international problem. And it really comes down to, fundamentally, I think, greed. You know, there's people that put their own best interest or their own wants above what's best for other people. When they think only about themselves, they start thinking about the profitability, and ultimately they're going to be willing to tap into an endless supply of victims, and ultimately they see the humans as just another commodity.
Well, I would tell your watchers, your listeners to this program, that if you are in a situation where you feel you are being trafficked, either sex or labor, there are hotlines to call. There are police departments wherever you are living, or the sheriff's office, and make sure that you tell them that indeed you have been kept against your will and forced to do these things, and you are ready to break free of that, and you need to break free, and you need their help. And most police officers I've ever encountered, when asked for help, will respond. Isn't that correct, Sheriff?
Absolutely correct.
I'm Sophia Becker-Misha, and I'm here today because I am against human trafficking.
Even after a career in law enforcement, honestly, I had no idea the extent of modern-day slavery going on right out in the open, right flagrantly occurring right in our communities, with no one really watching and not enough resources to truly put a dent in it.
The traffickers, because that's the nicer name for it, they recruit kids in the areas where they're at. So libraries. A big pimp's not going to walk in with a feather cap and a Cadillac, big jewels all over him and a long gold necklace, and he's not always black, which everyone thinks that's a stereotype. I'm going to send a kid that looks just like you into the library to study next to you if I'm a pimp, because I know you're not going to talk to the big bad wolf. I'm also going to send a female if I'm trying to recruit a female.
So what that means is kids who are caught in this vicious cycle are now being treated as kids who need help. And so the system has changed its focus a little bit from treating them as part of the problem and treating them as people who need help and going after the people who are the real problems.
Imprisoned Show is what I know. They bring in all these boys and girls all around the whole wide world. Imprisoned Show is what I know, but here we go, yeah, whoa. Imprisoned Show is what I know. They took it from my home, I can't get back.
Imprisoned Show is a show set out to educate the public about human trafficking. It features expert opinions, people, organizations, events on issues surrounding human trafficking around the world. Hello viewers at home, my name is Bukola Oriola and this is Imprisoned Show. Thank you and welcome to the show. Today I have great guests for you. I have the Anoka County Attorney, Attorney Tony Palumbo, and the Anoka County Sheriff, Sheriff James Stuart. If you were with us in 2012, they were here in 2012 talking about Anoka County and human trafficking in Anoka County. Now they are back to tell us what they have been doing in the past 2 years and the success stories in Anoka County in terms of combating human trafficking. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Our pleasure. Happy to be here.
I really appreciate your coming back to tell us what you have been doing, the successes you have had in the past 2 years. And I know that recently you had a community forum.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that? Let's start from the community forum.
Absolutely. Well, we have been trying to be out and presenting a bunch of the human trafficking material in smaller scale to community groups and civic groups and things like that, and trying to get the word out there. And as we were out there presenting, we realized there's a need for a larger scale forum, a larger scale event that we can invite a lot more people to and bring more of our partners to the table in order to make sure all of the different perspectives are being represented more effectively. And so we partnered with the school district and with the county attorney's office, and we were able to pull off our first event, and I think it was very successful in getting the message out there and really trying to educate the public that this isn't just a third world country issue, which a lot of people tend to think, but it's in the United States, it's in Minnesota, and it's in Anoka County, and it's alive and well, and we need to work together to make a difference.
Anoka is only 17,000 plus population.
Anoka,
The city?
The city is.
Oh yes, Anoka City.
The city. The Anoka County is 335,000.
Oh, okay. Out
There.
of 335,000, what would you say the rate has been in terms of the human trafficking awareness in the homes?
Awareness within the homes?
Yes.
That would be a really difficult number to estimate. We have tried to be pretty assertive in our marketing, if you will, of the material. You know, we have put out articles, we've put out newsletters, we're putting a lot of stuff out through social media and things like that to get people to try and learn more, but there's always going to be the pockets of individuals who aren't getting all of the information. We talked about working with the school district. We partnered with Anoka Hennepin School District to make sure the flyers and the materials for the community forum, as well as some basic information about the problem of human trafficking, went out to the parents. And so we hope if everybody is actually pushing out these materials and other people are actually receiving it, they're taking the time to read it and absorb it. And so I think we're much better informed as a community than we were 2 years ago, but we have a long way to go.
Yes, I think I got one of those meals in my
Excellent.
son's school packet store.
Yes.
So thank you for what you are doing there. And in terms of prosecution, what has been happening so far in the past 2 years?
Well, we have, obviously, we look at the cases that the sheriff's office does send to us, and we certainly will prosecute these cases to the fullest extent. These cases take an extraordinary amount of manpower to put together. The sheriff's office is heavily taxed in putting together these kinds of cases. We have a prosecutor in our office who is working with other Metro County attorneys and the U.S. Attorney's Office on a task force, a human trafficking task force, to keep tabs on what is happening in the metro area. With the advent of the new safe harbor law that has gone into effect, and I certainly can talk about that if you wish.
Yes, please. You want to hear about the safe harbor law, what it means for
Okay.
Minnesotans?
The safe harbor law is a law that was passed that changes the way the authorities prosecute these kind of cases regarding the victims. What happens now is minors who are under 18 who are involved in this are not looked at as criminals. They are looked at as victims. And we have programs in place that divert them from the criminal justice system.
Does that also eliminate them from being seen as juvenile delinquents?
It does. The safe harbor law, when they are caught up in this kind of thing, they are diverted from the juvenile justice system. What that means is they are not considered to be juvenile delinquents. They are considered in a special category that they need some help in treatment. So they are diverted into programs, and there are many programs that are starting to spring up that are dealing with this type of situation. So we as prosecutors, we began in 2011, and it is continuing to look at the problem as adults who are taking control over some of the juveniles. And of course, to kind of piggyback onto what the sheriff has said, I do believe that public education, first and foremost, is the way to address the problem, because if you eliminate demand, you eliminate you eliminate the supply, you eliminate the demand. So we want to educate those kids that this is not a wonderful life. This is not a life where you will be well taken care of. This is a life where if you get into, it's very difficult to get out of, and it certainly is not anything that you would want your younger brother or sister to get into. It's a situation that is very difficult to be in, and it is so degrading and has such long-term effects that we want people to be aware of, and we want parents to understand the signs and the symptoms of what's going on, so they can be a partner with us, as Jim said.
So before we come to the science for the parents to look at, I want to ask you, you educate these kids, but at that point, the thing had already occurred or the crime had already occurred. Mm-hmm. So are you taking any steps in terms of educating them before it occurs? For example, how you send things through them to us at home? Do you plan on starting something in school from elementary age kids to learn about human trafficking at their own level?
Field that if you want.
Well, Jim would be good because he is certainly out front in law enforcement on getting that message out, and I'm a big supporter of Jim's, but Jim, I think maybe you can address that question very well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have, I mentioned before, for our community forum, we partnered with the Anoka County School District. We've been having meetings since then, and we're trying to develop, or we will be developing, a age-appropriate materials, and so we are going to be doing another forum this fall, and we're also, that was for the community and maybe for the parents, but we are also looking at specific training for our school resource officers and our school liaison officers who are in the schools. They have received baseline training already, so they know what to look for, and they know some of the kids who might get caught up in this more easily than others, and really what to watch for. And so they've received that training on a countywide basis, but we want to bring it to the next level and start bringing it to the students. Okay. And because we know there's no better eyes and ears within a school than the student body collective. And so we are going to be, actually just this past week I met with the school district again, and so everybody's engaged. It's a matter of developing the curriculum and getting it to the schools. We'll likely also be partnering with Breaking Free, who has been a real strong advocate in this arena as well.
Okay. I think one thing to point out is the people who are doing the recruiting look very much like the students themselves. Mm-hmm. Yes. These are not the scary, bad men that comes into the schools. These are, if you're looking for a 15-year-old girl to be involved in this, these people who are involved in this might send a 15-year-old girl in to recruit and thereby lessen the fear by saying, well, it isn't all that bad because if she's in it, then maybe I can get in it too, for the lure of money. So I think it's very important for people to understand at the outset that this is a problem that's insidious because it appears to be very benign, appears to be not a big deal to a young kid when another kid that looks like them or is about their age approaches them. This is the message I think we need to get out right away. No, I don't care who talks to you about it and what they look like. It is not a good thing. And that's part of the public education program. Certainly the law enforcement through the sheriff is trying to get a message out in the schools.
So what are the kind of training that you have for parents or the things that parents should look out for in their kids?
I think certainly children who are, shall we say, isolate themselves from a family, who appear to have a new group of friends, who appear to have far more money than they should have at that age. And of course, those children who are gone, who absent themselves from the house for extended periods of time. These are all indicators that the child's engaged in some form of illegal activity. It could be human trafficking, it could be drugs. So if parents knows a change in their child's behavior, they're withdrawing, and suddenly a new group of friends, suddenly even more privacy than what a teenager ordinarily wants. These are things that should cause a parent to begin to question what's going on. Jim, have you got some thoughts on that?
I would just echo a lot of that. The habitual runaways, a change in demeanor, sometimes related to alcohol or drug use, or some of those same type of behaviors, a lot more secretive, new boyfriend, older boyfriend, and just that secretive lifestyle. We just really encourage parents to pay attention, communicate often, communicate effectively with your kids. We've kind of created this culture where parents are sometimes afraid to parent. You need to know what your kids are doing online. You need to know who your friends are, and to communicate with your child's friends' parents. You know, it's all about communication. If you want to be effective in making sure your kids aren't damaged by those who want to, you know, get them into a bad lifestyle or pull them down that path that is going to destroy them, then parents need to be more engaged sometimes than they are, and that's a big part of it.
Thank you so much. We want to take a break right now. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Emily Wise. Please join Bucola in the fight against human trafficking by partnering with the Anytown Story. Their mission is to advocate for victims and empower survivors of human trafficking. For more information on that, you can go to or email info@anytown.org. Once a month, we have the Empowerment Circle. You can find more about the Empowerment Circle on our website. Thank you for your time.
Can you believe they took all of them, all these kids, just for the wants and the needs? Imprisoned Show. Oh, oh, oh.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, I have a great guest in the studio, the county attorney, Attorney Tony Palumbo, and the county sheriff, Sheriff James Stuart. Thanks again for staying with us. You know, you started a task force after you came here 2 years ago. So can you tell us more about that task force, what you have been doing with that, and you know, what they have been seeing outside on the field?
Absolutely. We early on identified, and I know that you have some knowledge of the case, but for our viewers, one example, we had identified a human trafficking case, and we had 2 detectives working full-time plus on it for about 10 months. As Tony said earlier, it's very time-consuming to develop these cases. And so once we realized we're barely scratching the surface with the number of the cases that could be being pursued, we know we don't have the resources to effectively deal with this. So I reached out to our local police departments and said, if our staff provides the training and if we're willing to help identify these major cases that we can pursue, would you be willing to partner with us further and provide a detective and create this Anoka County Human Trafficking Task Force? And I'm so grateful for our partners in Blue, because all of them that were able to said, yes, we'll put somebody in that unit. And so Anoka County does have an ad hoc human trafficking task force now, and as we identify significant cases, we have representatives, we have multiple members from the sheriff's office, and then we have I believe it's 10 of the all 10 of the law enforcement agencies are willing to, at least in a part-time capacity, allow us a resource to use for this course. So it's been very effective. We've got the training up and running. All of the detectives have been trained, and they've begun to work some cases. So
I think we met one of your commanders, Commander Brian.
Yes.
Who was here last winter. So what are the challenges they've been encountering in terms of finding out more about this issue?
The biggest challenge for us really comes down to resources, as I alluded to before, because you know, when I talk about one case involving 2 traffickers who had up to 40 victims caught up in their business, if you will, we had those 2 detectives working in that for 10 months. While our criminal investigation division, our detectives can have up to 35 cases on their desk at any given time, and they only handle major criminal cases. So your rapes, your robberies, your homicides, your felony assaults, they're all important to us. So to try and figure out what's put on hold, how do we balance those priorities, because they are all priority, is a real difficult task, and thus part of the reason for wanting that task force, so we can bring more bodies into it. But at the same time, it's an absolute priority, and so we want to make sure we're being proactive in it. So the detectives are working the cases. They're tracking down the bad guys. We're working with our partners in the advocacy groups to help these victims get their lives back, and we're working with our partners in the county attorney's office to get the traffickers locked up for a very long time.
Okay, if I may ask, with the safe harbor law, are you going to be able to provide more manpower to the sheriff's office or the police department to be able to have more hands to work on this case?
Well, one of the benefits of the safe harbor law, it takes away one of the tricks of the traffickers who say, you're going to jail. If you turn your, if we get caught, you're going to jail too. And so it frightens usually the girls, but sometimes boys too, into keeping silence. So by using the safe harbor law, and it gets out on the street that these victims will not be prosecuted, that they will get some help, we take away one of those traffickers' little tricks on keeping a tight control on these victims. What that does is allows us, because the prosecution is very difficult because they occur over a period of time, the law enforcement can do the most wonderful job in the world and present the case to us, but once it gets to us, we have to live with that case until there's a conviction. And until then, we have to make sure that we are working with the victims and that the victims stay with us, of course. Safe harbor law allows us to be able to do that in the sense of making sure they get some help that's required for them because they've been in the lifestyle for so long. Getting help for law enforcement, we're always available as consultants or advisors to law enforcement to be able to help direct the investigation and take it in an area that we know will be successful in terms of a prosecution. We are also available to help with what's called victim services, a division in our office that does provide help to victims who are caught up in the criminal justice system.
What kind of help?
They give them available resources. They point out the resources that are there. We ourselves are able to at least talk to them, although we're not official counselors. We certainly do talk to them about some of the programs that are out there and how they can get help for it. We do have an emergency fund where if people need immediate sort of things like locks changed or to be moved elsewhere where they have an immediate expense and they don't have that, we do have some funds available to be able to help them in emergency situations. So while we're not a full counseling agency, we do provide information and some minor assistance in an emergency situation, and that's how we help out.
I just want to also thank our legislation for taking on some of these things. We as the law enforcement community spent some time with our advocacy partners trying to lobby for more aggressive laws in this arena, and our legislators stepped up. And there's even some additional funding for some of the advocacy groups. And so that's what we've identified as the breakdown. We have areas that are happy to prosecute, and we have advocacy groups that are happy to help the victims get their lives back. But the problem is really getting the feet on the ground to identify the crimes as they're occurring so we can get the victims out of the lifestyle, help them get their lives back, and to get these bad guys locked up. And it's really a matter of getting those resources, to get the detectives to go out and start the hunt.
And we as prosecutors are going to seek and have sought stiffer sentences because we do feel, again, anybody who preys on the vulnerable, at least in my opinion as county attorney, ought to be prosecuted and imprisoned for a lot longer than I think other areas. Both Jim and I think, see eye to eye on this. When you take advantage of a child, you take advantage of a vulnerable person, I think it's despicable, quite frankly, and I think the punishment ought to be more severe if you're taking advantage of somebody who can't quite help themselves in certain situations. And that's why we're going at it as hard as we do.
The Anytone Story is a certified nonprofit organization located in Spring Lake Park, Minnesota. Pronounced as Anytone, the word means someone with a story. The Anytone Story's mission is to advocate for victims and empower survivors of human trafficking and domestic abuse. We advocate for victims by educating the public about the issues surrounding human trafficking in order to reduce the stigma against victims of human trafficking. Whether victims are in or outside of Minnesota, Our goal is to turn their tragic stories into stories of survivors by providing them with our resources and connecting them to other resources available in their communities. We aim to empower survivors by providing them with a platform to integrate back into their community and become self-sustainable. Our services include community outreach through public presentations, trainings for hospitals and clinics, schools, churches, and others who are interested. You can find us online at anyton.org and on Facebook.
Imprisoned Show is what I know.
The Imprisoned Show is the Anytime Stories television and online educational program.
Hello viewers at home, my name is Bukola Oriola and this is Imprisoned Show.
We use it to reach out to the public in Minnesota and around the world. Visit imprisonedshow.com for more information. We recently started a community garden in Anoka County, Minnesota, where we plant ethnic vegetables to provide victims who are not originally from the United States with familiar foods. We are also available to train shelter cooks who are interested in adding international dishes to their menus.
This year we hope to bring you cooking segments. So if you have a dish you would like us to learn about, you can send us a video online on YouTube. Send it to Imprisoned Show page on YouTube, or if you are in the Minnesota area, you can invite us and we'll bring the camera to your house.
On the last Friday of every month, the Anytime Story hosts an empowerment circle, a community get-together focusing on a common topic to mentor survivors. We recently started a survivor fund, which we hope to use to help victims and survivors continue their education, start a business, pursue their career of choice, or to use it as an emergency fund to help survivors in times of need.
Good. I just have another question there. You know, we've been talking about the child under 18 years old. What about those ones who are older than 18 years old? Is there anything for them? Any hope for them?
Absolutely. We have been talking about children and getting them, but there are many, mainly women, some men, caught up in this lifestyle that there is help for, that there are programs out there dedicated to helping people who have been caught in this lifestyle who want to get out of this lifestyle. And it really is a turnaround in their lives when they get involved in some of these. Breaking Free is, of course, probably the premier organization that certainly has helped people do that. And as more and more spotlight is shown on this particular issue, there are more people aware of it and more willing to come forward and work with those programs that help women, mainly women who are over 18 but who are caught in the lifestyle and want to get out of it. So we certainly have worked well with those programs. We want to continue to support them.
Okay, and also it seems like we've been talking more and more about sex trafficking. You know, what about the other types of trafficking, like labor trafficking and organ trafficking?
I could say from the law enforcement perspective, we see a lot less of that, but I think some of it is also because we don't have as many people with their eyes and ears open for it. We might just think that's a group of migrant workers helping out on this farm as opposed to human trafficking. The sex trafficking, people, especially as we get more and more education out there, people are our eyes and ears and they're reporting to us, and so if they see something, they're going to say something, which is what we want. But the human trafficking is a little bit tighter knit circle that not as many people are going to be talking about or looking for, and the organ trafficking is even more secretive, very small inner circle. From our experience at the sheriff's office side, we haven't seen any cases come through related to the organ trafficking, and the human trafficking in general, like I said before, we're trying to just more assertively develop our eyes and ears throughout the community to make sure that if people are suspicious of something, give us a call. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then in terms of the forum you had, there was a lot of turnout at that forum. Did you get any feedback back from some of those who attended that forum?
We did get a lot of feedback from the forum, a lot of positive feedback, so that's always a good thing. The goal is to get people talking. My thought on if I can go to a Rotary Club or a Lions Club or Kiwanis or something the following couple of weeks and hear people talking about, yeah, we were all talking about that forum the other day. That's the goal. We want them talking, and we want them to keep telling people and to keep utilizing the resources that we try to make available. And so that's been effective. A lot of the feedback we got was, do more of it. And so that is what we're planning to do this fall. We're going to launch another community-wide forum, at least one, and then we're also going to, like as I mentioned before, we're going to try to get into the schools and really focus on the potential victims to make sure they're not victimized.
Yes, and I also received very positive feedback. I've run into people who attended that I would see out in the community, and they thanked us for at least putting on such a forum, and I must say Jim was very instrumental in getting that going, so I give him the credit for it.
Good. The forum team was the Anoka Hennepin School District. So is Anoka County doing anything with Hennepin County?
We keep communications open. Because of the boundary line, sometimes we have some challenges, but we certainly work closely with them. Within the sheriff's side, we have what we call the MRIC, and it's all the metro sheriffs created this Metro Regional Information Collaborative. And so as we identify crimes, we're able to feed it into this crime analysis system and better communicate with the entire metropolitan area. And so certainly the human trafficking circuits and rings and bad guys are information that's plugged in there so that we can continue to share information collaboratively, working together. As far as the forums go, we will be trying to work more closely as we cross those lines, as you said. Because it's Anoka Hennepin, we know that there's going to be some crossover, and we want to make sure that students and families on both sides of the river are going to benefit.
And you published something on your Facebook page in 2013. Can you tell us about that article you published and the responses you got? Because I have it here.
You're going to have to refresh my memory, which article?
You had published an article about human trafficking.
Yes.
On your Facebook page, and I think you were trying to create awareness about it.
Yes, and that's whether it's...
I have 2 pages here of comments from members of the community.
Hopefully they were good.
Yes.
No,
about the article, and it seemed like, some people don't know, some people knew a little, and people want more. So
yes.
Aside from, publishing article or even organizing this forum once a season, how else can we further get into, people's homes especially, where the family is there to talk together at the dinner table or something? So how do we, effectively get into them?
Well, and that's a good example, and I appreciate you finding that and sharing it. But
yes,
that's some of the stuff.
Trafficking is a local problem by Sheriff James Stuart.
It's absolutely a local problem, and we, in addition to putting it on Facebook, we have put it in local newspapers. We've put it in the countywide newsletter, and we continue to almost weekly somewhere in the county. I'm out talking to, as I said, the civic groups and the community groups, and doing presentations on it. And if we can get all of those people to not just hear it, but to take it and to keep spreading the word and keep, getting more and more people engaged in this battle, then we're going to be more successful.
Oh, okay. And then right now it's like the sex trafficking is becoming more popular in terms of awareness, generally in the state of Minnesota. And I don't know if you're aware that in Owatonna, it's close to Owatonna, the county sheriff is starting something. So like the county sheriffs, do you people also connect together to share information and help one another about this issue?
Certainly we in the county attorney side do often. We do through our meetings, we do through emails. We are in touch with each other We do know of a certain pipeline in parts of this state, starting in St. Cloud and going down into Rochester. Very much so, very active pipeline of human trafficking. I have discussed with the county attorneys about that particular problem. And I'm sure in the law enforcement, they probably have even more contact than we do in the county attorneys in gathering intelligence and trying to address the problem. So yes, we do talk a lot about that.
Oh, good. So what words do you have for victims who are still out there?
For the victims,
Yeah.
there's hope. Today does not define who you are. If somehow you found yourself in a situation, this is an opportunity to turn it around. Reach out to local law enforcement, reach out to a pastor, reach out to the county attorney's office, reach out to somebody. There's a lot of people that are working on your behalf to try and give you a new hope, a new tomorrow, and a new future.
And I would echo that and also say, yes, not only is there hope, there are resources. And it doesn't have to be that way. And whatever people in the business are telling you isn't always true. Get out of it if you can. You're going to find a receptive audience with the authorities to try and help you get back on your feet and get your dignity back. And that's the most important thing I think any person can have.
I see the sun in the hills where we are one, and I climb up so high to the diamond in the sky. Give me a star in mountains. Give me a star enclosure. Give me a star in mountains. Give me a star in mountains. Give me a star enclosure. Say whatever you feel and I feel and we feel, yeah. I'm breaking through these chains now. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm tearing through the carpet. No, 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 I said there ain't no stopping me now. Give me a star in mountains, give me a star enclosure. Give me a star in mountains, give me a star enclosure. I said I'm finally free to be me, boy, you see, yeah. I left the past behind me, yeah, 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 yeah. There is no time to waste now, I'm gonna take the world on. No, 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 if you ain't good, then get out my way. Give me a star in mountains, give me a star enclosure. Give me a star in mountains, give me a star enclosure. I said I've been there before and no more, that's the door, yeah. I'm climbing up the rocks now, yeah, 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 yeah. The sun is shining on me, I'm gazing at the valley. Now I see that it's all there
We light this candle in honor of victims who have lost their lives as a result of human trafficking, and we hope that their soul rests in perfect peace.
Imprisoned Show is what I know. They bring in all these boys and girls all around the whole wide world. Imprisoned Show is what I know.
Half of those trafficked, according to statistics, are children. And today we have somebody who has been working on child labor for 20 years coming to talk to us about child labor. But before then, I have with me right here Dr. Sherry Jordan from University of St. Thomas in Minnesota here that will be talking to us about human trafficking and why she incorporated the subject into a classroom.
Often it's children, it's young adults who are the victims of this. So giving them the information about it is really crucial.
We always talked about the labeling. What's the labor behind the label? Because you can look at your clothing, you can look at a toy, you can look at your food, you can find out where things are made. And then with a social conscience, you know, with a moral compass of what's right and wrong, you can make choices to improve the lives of children.